Right. Well, welcome everybody. So excited to be here today. I'm here with Colleen.
Hello.
Hi, Colleen. And we are so happy to have back Taylor Norris.
Aloha.
Hello, Taylor. So we've had Taylor on before. She is a friend and colleague and Reiki master and wonderful astrologer. And so we're just really excited to have her back to talk about the major things that we have going on um, coming up. It seems like it's been that for a few years now, but I do think that these are some really beautiful and powerful aspects that we have coming up. And I know that she is going to be talking with us about those. So she's Taylor Ann Norris, MS, is a Usui Holy Fire 3 World Peace Karuna Reiki Master and professional member of the RMA, and empowers others with Reiki classes and sessions online, and is a certified galactic astrology quantum soul guidance practitioner, and integrates advanced Reiki techniques and intuition into her galactic astrology soul readings for clients' healing, guidance, and empowerment. And then questions that you ask yourself and clients that your work can help them to discover is: who am I? Why am I here? Where do I come from? And where am I going next? And then helping to co-create heaven on earth and empower cosmic peace. And are you teaching online, Taylor, or are you teaching in person with Reiki?
Online.
Online.
Everything online.
That's
Readings
what I
online,
figured, but I
sessions
just wanted to
online.
make sure, since you're in Hawaii, if people are looking, but everything's online. So you can reach her from across the globe. As always, we'll put her information in the description. It's taylornorrisreiki.com. And then you're really active on your Instagram and your YouTube, which you can find. Instagram is Taylor Norris Reiki. And I know, because we're friends on Instagram, I know you link all your stuff to your YouTube videos. And I know you've been featured on Galactic Astrology recently quite a bit. And so you always put your links to those things there. So welcome. We're so excited to have you back.
Thank you so much. I'm so grateful to be here.
And it's funny because, a little bit of behind the scenes, we actually kind of switched around the order of release so that we could have Taylor on here before the major eclipse that is, well, at least if you're listening in the United States, not that it doesn't affect the world, it does, but that it's traveling across the United States on April 8th. And so we have some big aspects coming up that we're going to be talking about. And Taylor's always so helpful in these, because she also talks about not just the aspects of it, but how you can use Reiki or your spiritual modalities, and really go into the qualities of the different aspects, and how you might be able to use your tools to integrate with them in the different ways that they can affect each of us. So yeah, really excited for that. And this will be released after, but we have the lunar eclipse in March 24th, 25th. Yep. And then the solar eclipse, April 8th. And then we're also going to be talking about the Jupiter Uranus conjunction on April 20th. So she does teach, find her classes, all of her stuff at Taylor Norris Reiki. But Taylor, welcome. And let's go ahead and get into it, because astrology is a whole nother language. We can all deep dive and totally geek out about it together. And so let's go ahead and get started with it. So
Yeah,
I think, well, wherever you want to start, but I know since we have the eclipse coming up, it's on the Libra Aries axis. It's a solar eclipse, or Aries Libra axis, solar eclipse. So want to start there or wherever you want to start?
that sounds good. But before I start, I just want to say thank you so much to both of you. And thank you to this community, to everyone who listens to podcasts. I am so grateful for all of you and all the connections and soul family I've made in this community. It's just with my Aquarius North node really lights me up having this community. So I'm super grateful to share this information and connect more deeply with ourselves, our multidimensional selves, and our relationships to the earth and the stars and the cosmos, and really embodying more of that. So yeah, I'm really gushing with gratitude for this community, and yeah, I feel so much love. So I wanted to start and definitely share that first.
Oh, thank you, Taylor, and you too. We love having you in our community and as a part of our community. And I want to say really quickly, if you haven't listened to the other episode with Taylor, go and listen to that because she tells just the best story about how she found the podcast. Her origin story with
That's what
getting
it was.
a Reiki lifestyle. It's a good story. Oh,
Yeah.
yes. Thank you, Taylor. We love having you and getting to know you as well, and all that you provide to our community too. It's really invaluable.
In fact, make sure you let people know about you have a Reiki share on the 8th, the day of the eclipse. So that would also be a great way for people to connect. So
Yeah, I find working with the new moons is very, very helpful with Reiki, with astrology, and coming together. You know, it's a really good time to gather. And our next new moon is in Aries, and it is this solar eclipse. So that's really the energy of a solar eclipse, is like a big new moon, a giant, massive new moon, new beginnings moment. And we certainly have a big new beginning with this Aries solar eclipse. I mean, not only that, it's in the first sign of the zodiac, which has that energy of new beginnings, planting seeds, and really being bold and fearless and courageous, pioneering, stepping forward into the light and the fire of your soul and your passion, and really letting go of anything that's blocking the flow of that life force energy. It's a total solar eclipse, so that makes it even more potent, more powerful, definitely, to come together in circle and be supported, and also really receive this empowerment and this boost in energy and in our life force, and in understanding our sense of self at a deeper level. This is the essence of Aries energy. It's simple, it's direct, it's clear. It doesn't even ask the question who I am, or who am I. It just knows and expresses that I amness. So yeah, it's really beautiful. It's this total solar eclipse is happening at 19 degrees Aries in 24 minutes. So that is where to look in your chart if you know how to do that, and see where is the sign of Aries in your chart and where is 19 degrees and 24 minutes in your chart. And you can then understand what life area you're having and hosting and holding space for a new beginning in your life in this cycle. And really, for the next 6 months, it's a new beginning for the next 6 month cycle, at least.
I was sharing with Taylor before that I actually am an Aries, and I have a Libra moon, even though I know the new moon is in obviously in Aries, and I will be turning 40 on the 15th. So it's also a new decade. So all of us that are like, okay, where's that in my chart? I'm going to go look. I don't know it off the top of my head. I'll wait until the podcast is over, but certainly looking at it. I mean, I know obviously I have it in my sun, but yeah, that's really interesting. So lots of new beginnings in I mean, in a lot of different ways for everybody, but specifically in those places.
Yeah, and spiritual new beginnings too, because we can look at the ruler of the eclipse is the planet Mars. So each zodiac sign has a planetary ruler. And for the zodiac sign of Aries, that is Mars. And at the time of this eclipse, Mars will be in the sign of Pisces, which is all about our spiritual connection, our mysticism, emotions, and creativity, being in the divine flow. And with Mars, it's like unifying that self-will with the divine will and really feeling that come together in your body and your motivations and how you direct your life force energy. Mars is that focused direction of the life force energy. In Pisces, it's like the life force energy is wants to go in every direction and every dimension all at once, and Mars is like, no, we're going straight line, linear. Yeah, so to have those
How
two
often do
together.
you hear us talking about that, where I'm all over and Robin's very, she's much more logical. And I actually, not to make it about me, but a little bit, because I have Venus and Pisces at 19 degrees. So
Okay.
that's like, okay.
Venus is exalted in Pisces. That's a very, very happy place for Venus to be.
I feel that. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, it's just inevitable that we're going to kind of relate it to.
It's like you said, Robin, you'll wait till after. It's like, no, I pulled my chart up already.
I know, totally. I'm like, where's my Mars
I'm
then?
looking.
Taylor
Yeah, so
asked before, to be fully transparent, Taylor asked before what my rising is in as well, so which is Pisces. So funny. Totally. Which we all do, so it's normal. And then also it has to be about what everybody else that actually listens not just about me and Colleen.
But I mean, that's an invitation for everybody who does have their astrological chart. You can pull it out and find those degree points and see what's going on, because this eclipse, there's a lot of energy in Pisces. So any of your Pisces placements will be feeling activated. And then there's a lot of planetary energy in the sign of Aries as well. So looking for which houses in your chart are occupied by the sign of Pisces and Aries will give you a clue of more of what this energy of the eclipse is about for you.
Well, that's actually really helpful for those of you that are listening, as we're going to be talking about these aspects. That would be a good thing that they could do is go ahead and pull up their chart and look at any of the aspects that they might have within their own. And if you don't have it, and I know it can be a little it can kind of be a little confusing to look at for the first time, but if you don't have it, you can find it at all different places. Let's see, what's kind of one of the more common ones is astro.com, right? You can put in your birth chart, and just free places that you can have that done.
And also Taylor does individual sessions.
Yes, of course.
So,
and very good at sessions.
And very good. Yeah.
So then we're in new beginnings. And then at the same time, we have this Mars aspect of it in Pisces. And how do those kind of, flow to do they fight against each other? Or, because like you said, Pisces and Aries and Mars are very different energies. So do they kind of fight against each other, or is there a way to kind of have that flow together?
I think that is it right there, Robin. I feel like this eclipse is very much about healing. It's also conjunct the asteroid Chiron, which is the ultimate healer, teacher, mentor. So I think it's healing that part of ourselves that is conflicted, that is battling itself, that is resisting, evolution, is resisting growth, is resisting peace and harmony and, having heaven on earth, having these kinds of experiences, living in a realm of love, of abundance, of everyone having what they need and enough energy and, working together for the highest good of all and really, living that truth. So I think it's like dissolving and letting go of a lot of this fight energy and this light warrior energy too. Um, this eclipse, I think it was in one of the classes with you all, it really clicked for me, this insight about one of the core messages of this Aries solar eclipse is really letting go of that light warrior kind of fight archetype, and being more in that inner peace vibration, holding that for self, holding that for the collective, and embodying more of the light bringer and the light bearer. And this is very much also reflected by the galactic alignments when we looked at the star alignments. Actually, what star is planet Mars in Pisces aligned with? And when I explored that, Mars and Saturn will both be aligned with this star called Achernar in Eridanus constellation. And Eridanus constellation is the great starry river. It's a river of life within the stars. And, absolutely beautiful energy, this river of life in the stars. And this star is at the mouth of the river, Achernar, and both Mars and Saturn conjunct each other and in a conjunct alignment with this star Achernar. So what I was really seeing with this eclipse is it's this new healing beginning, and it's also about the warrior Mars, the young masculine warrior, the inner masculine, the divine masculine, receiving from Saturn this initiation, because Saturn is like the energy of the elder, the wise one, the authority figure, receiving from Saturn the light bringer, the light bearer, that light within, and transitioning into this different way of just shining the light and being the light in the darkness rather than fighting against the darkness. This is part of, I think, the learning of this eclipse, and connected very much to this Eridanus energy, this Achernar energy that reminds me a lot of the elf beings in the Lord of the Rings, and receiving the light of Arendelle, which is the light of their most beloved star of the elves, and having this light to shine in the deep places of darkness, and kind of putting down the sword in the fight and instead just bringing the light. Yeah.
That's really interesting because it is also a little counterintuitive with the idea of Mars and Aries, like what you might be feeling versus, like you said, that conjunction with Saturn is such a great way to, like, because that was going to kind of be my next question of, so what are some, ways, especially for those that are going to be experiencing it, watching it, because it does go across a good portion of the United States. If what are some of the maybe tools or intentions or things that people can do to kind of go into it intentionally? Not everybody is going to have the chance to, be in a long period of Reiki or ceremony with anything. So are there any, suggestions you have around that as well? But then, yeah, that counterintuitive piece of Mars, but it's also in Pisces. So I feel like that's a really good sign for that. Like, I know you've been saying that, but it's just like clicking, like, oh yeah, that makes sense of why it's there, because it's got that battle aspect to it. And Aries does as well. Not that I'd know about that.
Yeah, just theoretically,
Yeah,
hypothetically.
right. Although my Pisces Libra calms it down a lot. So
Mm,
my
mm.
rise and my moon. But yeah, can you talk a little bit about that too?
I think having the intention of peace is really, really helpful and powerful leading up to this eclipse. And then on the day of the eclipse, holding that frequency of peace and the intention for peace, peace within, and then peace on earth, and peace within the cosmos, within all of creation as well. Yeah, finding a moment of peace, of stillness, and yeah, even if it is just a moment, just a few breaths, coming into that stillness and that peace, that centeredness as well.
Perfect for an eclipse in totality. Because
Right.
yeah, because when you're in it, like it's the energy, because we were in the totality in the one that went through Oregon in 2017 or something like that. And when you're in that moment, when it goes into totality, and even if you're not in it, that's okay. But it's like it's almost like snowfall. Like everything becomes so still and the birds stop and like it becomes dark and colder. And then yeah, you're in obviously the fullness or the wholeness within that kind of circular idea that that's a that moment of stillness even in the day if you can kind of go into those frequencies a little bit might be really helpful to be a part of that.
Yeah, wholeness, that's another a good word and good frequency. Wholeness, the peace, the singularity of it too, when you were just, like visualizing what it looks like, the singularity, wholeness, centeredness that I think we can experience is there as well. Yeah.
So I don't actually have any training with uh, eclipses, but what I've seen in some of my sessions, and not necessarily always aligning with eclipses in the literal sense, but where what it shows is that eclipsed energy and prior to it, and it moves slowly across, and then suddenly it's completely there, and then when it moves off, it's like the revealing of the that inner sun, like really having people's inner sun. And I often associate that with Mars, that's another aspect, like a solar plexus sun, personal sun shining through. So does that relate? Is that similar to the teachings around it?
I think that's a very good read on this one. It's almost like a rebirth sense of self, sense of identity, as it is with Mars and Aries. And, this can be the rebirth of a country's identity, such as, the United States of America. This is, happening on global levels, like bigger, scales, and then also that personal sense of identity too. And then yeah, even knowing about the transits that are down the pipe too, like a rebirth of what does it mean to be a human being at this time? What does it mean to be on earth? What does it mean to be a steward of the earth? Like really digging deeper into that and expressing that in a fresh way, understanding that, there's some changes, some radical changes that need to be made, and this really feels like the opportunity for a new healing beginning and an invitation to take a moment to heal self. Aries, this is Chiron conjunct this eclipse as well. Yeah.
Interesting.
Isn't Chiron the wounded healer?
Mhm.
So again, just what I think I know about it. It's like the wound that you come in with, like the life wound that then is part of your healing path. If you follow a healing path.
Exactly. Yeah, Chiron was rejected by his mother and by his parents, and so he had this abandonment wound coming in and was taken in by Apollo, the sun god, and Artemis and trained very extensively and like a protege, learning so many different modalities and skills and having so many different gifts and talents and then he became the person that everybody came to learn from and receive teachings and receive healing. And he later on received a secondary wound, which was a physical wound to his leg, to his thigh, or to his foot, depending on the story. So his initial wound was that abandonment, and then a secondary wound later on in his journey was more of that physical wound. But I think, just thinking about that for us, earth humans now, like this is a healing moment of that original kind of abandonment wound, feeling abandoned by source or by the divine or by God or, by our spirit guides or our ET forefathers or however you want to, I had to throw that in there. However you want to look at
Cast out of
it.
paradise.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So healing that and finding, a renewed sense of belongingness and a sense of connection and understanding that we're not alone and we weren't abandoned and we can heal and we heal together. We heal together and we heal loving ourselves as well deeply, and
So,
expressing ourselves.
and as we talk a lot about the belief in being separate from ourselves, separate from God, separate from source, separate from the earth, separate from the animal kingdom, would you say that's right in that idea also? That
The
the
wound of separation. Exactly.
Oh.
Mm, interesting. Well, so it will be in the middle of eclipse season, right? When this is released, we'll have had the lunar eclipse, and then we'll have the solar eclipse, and then we have a third one. I would imagine another lunar eclipse.
No,
No,
just 2 eclipses this
just two
season.
eclipses. Okay. I know, I always thought they came in threes, but I was like, I haven't heard of the third one. But okay, so it's just the two.
Yeah,
Okay.
sometimes 3. This
Sometimes.
time it's just 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, would there be residuals from the lunar eclipse that's happening where we are recording this, of course, about 10 days before it's released, and the lunar eclipse is in a couple of days? Is that like, would people recognize some of the effects of the lunar eclipse by the time this is actually posted?
Yeah, I would say so. Definitely, because the lunar eclipse is bringing certain realities to light. It's like a big full moon, so this can be, completions and new awarenesses, new understandings, particularly as regards relationships. This is Libra, self and other, being in right relationship. Also, the desire for more peace, for harmony, for creativity and beauty. In the Libra solar eclipse or the Libra lunar eclipse, Venus will be exalted in the sign of Pisces, actually in the placement where Mars and Saturn are for the Aries solar eclipse. So conjuncting that same star, we're getting that same frequency first in the lunar eclipse through Venus, our divine feminine kind of light warrior, alchemizing into more of the light bringer and receiving more of this light and this healing and this flow and this creative life force. And then, yeah, so there's a real connection between this star and both of the eclipses So I definitely think that anything that's coming up at the time of the lunar eclipse, at the time of the release of this podcast, April 1st, especially as April 1st, Mercury will station retrograde. So there would be a nice point to reflect, like, okay, what just happened, and integrate. And actually having that Mercury retrograde for the Aries solar eclipse can help with that integration process. It can help make things slow down a little bit if things are feeling too fast. We have a lot of fast, quick energies coming in April. So I'm really seeing the Mercury retrograde as something very supportive and helping us make more of those connections and awarenesses for like what's going on.
What's Mercury in? What's the retrograde in?
Aries.
It's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's a time of mental transformation as well, most definitely, and shedding any kind of limiting beliefs about self, those stories of separation, thought forms, paradigms of thinking that no longer serve the ways we are engaging in inner conflict and like beating ourselves up, like using that aggressive energy against self, and then how that projects out into relationships as well. So, yeah, there's a radical shedding and healing process of all of that as well, the mental body.
Would you also say, I'm just hearing this, that there would be a real maybe balancing with the divine feminine and the divine masculine energies? Because the
Absolutely.
divine feminine, that Libra, Moon, Venus, and Pisces, Venus, with the masculine energies of Mars, Aries.
Certainly. Yeah.
So I have to say, because so here's where this all, like what Colleen and I talk about, all the time, and you too, Taylor, I know that you talk about this, is like, how does this all relate to our real life? And as we're having this conversation, I have Venus in Aries, and now you said look for 19 degrees or 24 minutes. It's at 24 minutes. It's the only place in my chart that one of those two things is. I don't have anything else in 19 degrees or anything else in 24 minutes. So here's like where I'm like, okay, so I have this opportunity over these next few weeks to really, and I don't know enough about astrology. Like I have a pretty basic understanding of it, and can be so in depth, like you can study it for your whole life and still learn things, so but here's like where we talk about so much, like, okay, I have these kind of awarenesses that are coming up. I've probably got a really big, eclipses, Mercury retrograde, Venus, all of it mixed in. And I have this awareness. I don't know necessarily enough. I can also go to somebody externally to like look at these aspects, and how can I go through these as consciously. But we have these kind of situations all the time that these things come through, and maybe it's not in astrology, maybe it's in a completely different thing, a different experience or a life experience. And it's like, well, what can we do about these, and how can we actually move through these things consciously? How can I ask Reiki to come in and support me? As Colleen said, like she's had those experiences with eclipses that then line up with the astrological concept of them. And can you ask Reiki to come in and help support you? Ask these questions, or reveal your questions, reveal your intentions, and you have these tools to be able to help support you through these time frames. And in this situation, like, yeah, maybe I'll go in and look at this more. Maybe I should do that, considering all of these things that I'm now finding out. But if I didn't have the ability to do that, or the community to do that, I also know that I can just ask Reiki to come in and support me. And because it's an enlightened energy, going to know where to go and what to do. And like, this is so much of what we all talk about all the time, of that lifestyle aspect of it, of just give myself Reiki, like just ask it to support me. And it is helpful though to know, like, to have these intentions of what you were saying, Taylor. But it is such a, that's the part of it that's kind of really coming through in this moment of just ask Reiki to come in and support. Like, it knows what to do and where to go and what to do.
It does, and it is. And what I find in these kinds of conversations too, like, people are led to the astrology like you at a time where so many things are going on. So that's typically when somebody is going to book a reading. Like, natural, like, you will be guided to book a reading then, or you will be guided to a class on a certain topic, because there's something within you that's like you listening to you and your inner guidance to be led to explore something more. And yeah, Reiki is always helping. And what I'm realizing too, it's like the planets and the stars and all these alignments, it's our cosmic curriculum. It's showing us too, if you know how to read them, or you're asking, it can reflect to you, reading the astrology, looking at what's happening. It can reflect to you what your questions are. It can help you become more soul conscious, help you understand what your questions are and what your journey is about, and kind of where the collective energy is, and the dynamic between those two. But it's like the planets and the stars, they are guides, they are helpers, they are just assisting us with our growth process, and inviting Reiki to be a part of that, or the other way around. So you're already working with Reiki, inviting the planets and the stars to be a part of that is really all. That's what I'm so passionate about, is weaving the two together, because I see how much they really do dance, and the astrology is geared to help us with our awakening, with our healing, with our evolution, and with our growth. So and it can clarify and make objective some of the things we're experiencing in our life, so we have a greater understanding of, oh, like, that's what's going on, from like a higher level, and it can feel a little less entrenched and personal, and like, why me, or like, why this, like, what. It can really bring a lot of clarity, I think, and objectivity, and kind of taking away some of that guilt, blame, shame, confusion, like some of the lower frequencies that can be a part of anyone's healing path or spiritual path. Yeah.
That's such a great point. I love that, because it is really true. It does help to clarify, and I like exactly how you said it. It does make it feel like less personal and also more personal all at the same time, that multidimensional. But yeah, it does take that part of it, and it transmutes it, maybe is a good word to use about that aspect of it.
Well, I think it also, for me, a lot of it in astrology, because I've been, working with it for years, although never becoming really fluent in it. My mom practiced astrology back in the 70s. So, I've been around it, but I remember the first time I really paid attention, like many, was during my Saturn return. And then after that, what I found so helpful with astrology was the understanding of the beginning, middle, and end of the cycles that it shows me. So I can know, okay, if I'm in, this particular energy, for instance, I just had my second Saturn return however many years ago, quite a few years ago now. But during that, now I had the awareness of this is a cycle. It's going to be a couple of years. It's going to have these energies. I can invite the higher frequencies of them. And what you said earlier about the two eclipses that I thought was interesting, and people may really be feeling this, is the completion and then the new beginning. And so people, what I've heard so many people talk about is how they're in that in between right now, or limbo state, or they may feel stuck or paused. So would you say this is going to generate movement through the completion and the new beginnings?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, this is very much confirmed. I think you just summarized that very beautifully. We have the lunar eclipse as a completion, the solar eclipse is more that new beginning. And then the other transit, we're going to talk about the Jupiter Uranus conjunction in Taurus. That is absolutely getting unstuck. Like, and I mean,
Okay.
this is like the big unstuck.
Well, let's move into that.
Yeah.
And for all of it, having Reiki energy to help you entrain to the higher frequencies, because, when you're in that stuck place and you're waiting for the completion or you're waiting for the new beginning, it feels like, oh, when that happens, it's all going to be easy. But there's, I always think of those new beginnings, like the seed beneath the earth growing up, and it's shooting up to the surface, and all of a sudden there's a rock, and now it has to go over to the side and shoot up to the surface on the side, and then everything for it to bloom. So anyway, go ahead and go where you're going with it. So Reiki on.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so there's the Jupiter Uranus conjunction occurring April 20th. So just a little while after this solar eclipse, towards the end of April, we have this conjunction that only occurs about every 13 years. So the last time we had this conjunction was in January of 2011. So it's a good kind of practice to think back, okay, what was going on in my life around January 2011? And these two planets were conjunct a couple times in 2010 as well. So, kind of the second half of 2010, very beginning of 2011. Okay, what was going on? What kind of breakthrough process may have been occurring then? And that conjunction was in the sign of Pisces. So it was around 27 degrees Pisces, which I know, Colleen, I'm thinking that's one of your degree point areas there.
26-degree Pisces sun. Yeah. And very definitely unstuck in ways I didn't know I was stuck.
Yeah, so that was the last time we had this conjunction. I know in my life it was the same. It was like a radical breaking through, breaking free kind of energy. And it was a lot for my nervous system to handle as well. So definitely inviting Reiki to be there and help the grounding and help the breakthroughs be as, gentle and smooth and harmonious, and, feeling really supported through that. But this is like a quantum leap, wherever. So another thing you can do is look in your chart for this particular conjunction, April 20th. Where is 21 degrees of Taurus in your chart? 21 degrees and 49 minutes of Taurus in your chart. And this will signify to you the life area where this big breakthrough, this quantum leap. And many of us, I think, have been feeling like we're on the verge of some kind of like breakthrough and new paradigm, big shift in consciousness. And the energy's really been building up to that the last 13 years. So, being aware of where this might be occurring in your life by house placement can give you clues. But for, the wider humanity context, this is occurring in the sign of Taurus. So this can be radical changes in how we relate to the earth, to our human bodies, the ways we've become, stuck and entrenched within certain belief systems and stories and ideas about ourselves as humanity, about the nature of the earth, about the nature of our values and abundance and scarcity and lack and these kinds of things, because the sign of Taurus is ruled by Venus, which has to do with our values, with our money, our economic system, our relationships, our creativities. And Robin, you'll love this. At the time of the Jupiter Uranus conjunction, Venus will be at around 19 degrees of Aries. So you'll be having a Venus return. It's very obvious why this conversation is happening today.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So big breakthroughs in relationships and value systems and creativity, and definitely the divine feminine, the earth, humanity. All of these are up for major upgrades, and finding a deeper sense of self-worth and self-esteem, and really being courageous and pioneering in our divine feminine self-expression. Venus and Aries, I think, is one of the big opportunities here with this transit. So,
Will Mercury still be retrograde during that time?
yes.
Okay.
Yes, Mercury will be retrograde, and it will be conjunct the north node of the moon. So we could be having very groundbreaking ideas about our own, personal evolutionary growth, and then the soul growth and, collective destiny. What are we to do to be a more sustainable society? What are we to do to become, better equipped economically in a situation that's fair for everybody, that's supporting everybody's highest good? How are we in right relationship with the earth, taking that to an individual scale and then also to a larger collective scale as well? I think there's a lot of like reprogramming that can be happening, and definitely a mental transformation. Mercury is linked to more the lower mind, and Jupiter is more of the higher mind. So having them both in this conversation together, it's like the kind of day-to-day belief systems being, like cleared out and shedding out to make space for like this larger paradigm, new paradigm, a more awakened paradigm. And even like this is like radical new belief systems as well, geared towards the future. Also with Uranus, we're gonna see a lot of a lot of things.
Well, and the sun moves into Taurus too, right? On the 19th or 20th? Forget the day.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
sun. So at the time of this conjunction will be at 1 degree and 23 minutes of Taurus. So yeah, it's a good day to ground, to be in nature, and really connect with the earth and soothe the nervous system. I would say like really leading up to this conjunction during eclipse season, it's always a good time for, more self Reiki, more like soothing of the nervous system. And then the same leading into this conjunction. It's a similar kind of energy, because things are only going to kind of pick up in pace, really,
I just
from
bought
here.
some ashwagandha. It's going to be here tomorrow. Some new kind.
Perfect.
That's fun.
Adaptogenic herbs.
I was compelled. That's really funny. So a good time to also, if you are in planting season, we're getting close to that here in Oregon. It'll be a little early, but some things like that too, seeds and new beginnings and earthing, and yeah.
Definitely. I think new ways of, working with the earth and gardening and growing food, these will be big themes for the next 13 years, certainly. And really taking care of your physical body during this time and learning how to do that even better this next 13-year cycle. Because there's going to be lots of ideas about, what that looks like. I mean, there's already so many different ideas about what that looks like and what that means. I mean, even the question of, um, what is human, what is Earth, like all of these much deeper questions will definitely be present, and a desire, I believe, also for more of galactic contact, galactic travel, space travel, exploration, free energy, gravity control, quantum physics, these breakthroughs in neuroscience, understanding the brain, understanding the technology of the body, the intelligence of the heart, the breakthroughs in terms of what the human vehicle is really designed to do at, DNA level, genetic level, understanding more about like what that so-called junk DNA really is, and what it points to in terms of our human origins and more of our capacities as well as human beings, things like the clairsenses and these natural innate abilities that we have, telepathy, precognition, the dreams, all of this, remote viewing, astral travel. Um, Many of these gifts and talents, I think, are going to be unlocked at a even broader scale. I mean, another thing that's just coming in is, this is like a mass awakening kind of an energy as well. Many more people waking up and being curious about their spiritual path and what they can do and what's possible for humans to do. Uh,
So this will sound maybe normal in our group, but um, I just had, this is how you know you don't make this stuff up. I just worked with somebody this morning and the mycelium came in and said that it's speaking to us. And those of us who are able need to really be listening to the mycelium. And then I'm going to take it a step further. So, how we've been working with the 12 heavens of consciousness. And it was showing how when we did the seventh heaven last year, I think it was that one, but this is related to this particular person, and how on the other side of this realm is like a space with no time, and coming into this realm moves us into what they call the jello, that we get through that jello slowly. It's not on the other side, it's just an instantaneous. On this side, we move through time. But it was saying the membrane between there and here is the connection with the mycelium and the earth, that they're the same frequencies, but the mycelium is the physical manifestation of that membrane. And then that's what it, and the whole session was about this person and how the energy of the mycelium was going to physically help their body and really make a difference for that groundedness that you're talking about. And then it popped in and said, and by the way, Colleen, you too. So,
Well, Colleen, one of the supplements that you just started is one of the, there's not a lot of mushroom supplements that also include the mycelium. So the you just started includes the mycelium aspects within the supplements. So
Which one is that?
You started the lion's mane.
Yeah.
So yeah, as far as I know, I'm not an expert in that. I should qualify that. But as far as I was told by our Chinese medicine doctor, that was why he recommends that one. Yeah. Anyways, that's really fascinating. And speaking of nervous systems and mycelium and neurons and, neural network in our own brain, like, yeah, really interesting.
So I don't know. I don't know where to go from there with that, Taylor, but
I think
maybe you know.
that is like so on point. It's like the physicalization of that interconnectivity, that level of interconnectivity, I think is a beautiful manifestation, being more aware of that within our bodies and our connection and our auric field and how we are a part of that network as well. Absolutely. And the Jello talk reminds me a lot about Lemurian times and earlier from a linear time perspective, times upon the earth where, human beings may have been more in that Jello type form and, not quite as dense as we are all now. So how beautiful to experience that within the heavens and yeah, what that might mean for the next 13-year cycle, becoming more entrained with that divine feminine consciousness that was a part of the Lemurian times and when we were less dense and more in that awareness of our connection to source and our to God, the divine, and to the divine in each of ourselves, much more in that awareness of like the group consciousness within human beings on earth and then with the earth as well. That not being like separate. I think, yeah, that's totally connected and totally a great way of looking at this transit. And it's heaven on earth. It's like bringing the 12 heavens, that you guys study and or that y'all teach and we all study and practice together and training, ourselves to those heavens of consciousness and bringing more of that frequency into embodiment and into the mainstream and into as many forms as we can possibly create within the earth, bringing it into the physical more and more is also, yeah, Jupiter Uranus conjunct in Taurus.
So much it's just fascinating. It's so interesting how it all comes together. And I think one of the other things would be with the divine feminine, just receiving at this time, letting the energy lifting to these and training to the higher frequencies and receiving them because I think of Uranus often as it's going to reveal a lot of the unknown. And so we can't, I feel like it's not a time that we can, necessarily strategize to make sure, if I do this and this and this and this and this, then this will be the outcome. It seems like we have to be just more receptive.
That's a relief.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Can I not have to do it before? So
I'm happy to do it, but it can be also like, oh gosh, I hope I say the, right intentions. But if I can just drop into the receiving and release the control and drop into that receiving aspect, that is a really great point for it all. That it's like, it's okay,
breathe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Breathe and receive. And it's like expect the unexpected. Uranus is the unexpected, the sudden, disruptive moment of awakening. And Jupiter expands everything it touches. So this is like big, unexpected, big awakening, big, sudden kind of thing that, even kind of unexpected thing you think it might be is probably not even going to be that. So it's a total surrender and just be and Reiki on and be present and be open for the ride. Jupiter is ready to have a good time, and Uranus is like, blast off, take off, let's go into the future.
It sounds fun and a little bit like I'm a little nervous too.
Well, I actually have a great story about that because a couple of years ago, I had an astrology reading, and there was an eclipse, and I think it was in Libra, if I remember correctly. No, it wouldn't have been in Libra. Anyway, so and there was an eclipse, and I was telling Taylor before we started the recording that I actually can be really affected by eclipses. I've had some pretty big experiences that have related to my physical health and eclipse energy. And so I had this astrology reading because I knew there was an eclipse coming up, and I was like, I would like to know how this is going to fit into my chart and to the different aspects. And at the time, she had said, this energy is expect the unexpected with it all. And it also related to Pluto and having a really big Pluto transit that had happened the year before. That was, as Pluto transits can be, dark night of the soul stuff. I had been through a lot of health problems, and I then it was after the summer, and I had multiple seizures that summer. But one of the things that had happened before was that I had already made plans to go to Disneyland before I was finally getting better from my years of health problems with long COVID. And so we were like, okay, by October, November, I'm going to be continuing on this path, and I'll be feeling capable of doing this, because I had not been capable of doing that for years, as I was pretty debilitated by it. But we had already made the plans, we had bought the tickets, the whole thing, and then I had seizures that summer. And so we're like, am I going to be able to do this? Am I going to be able to go? And I got the green light to go by the neurologist. But the first day of our trip was on the eclipse. And I had that reading of expect the unexpected. And so I'm just sending so much Reiki into it. And the other thing with it was that this is also going to be a preview of this next year and the transition of Pluto and the eclipses that are coming and how they fit into your chart. I have Pluto and Scorpio in my 8th house, by the way. So super fun.
Conjunct Saturn, right?
What?
The conjunct Saturn.
Yeah. Super fun. Yeah. At 0 degrees, my Pluto's at 0 degrees. So anyway, side note. And so I was like, okay, so I'm just sending Reiki into this. This is a pretty big risk, ish. But the neurologist said, you should be fine. Just take breaks when you can. And, maybe don't go on Space Mountain. So I didn't do Space Mountain. But anyway, so this idea of this expect the unexpected was really I was really trying to surrender to that. But when I had gone through all of these things, and it had been multiple years, I'm not going to lie that there was fear involved with what that meant. What does that mean for me? And then we just had so much fun. It was this bright spot at the end of this long, dark tunnel that we had all gone through, because my husband was in caregiving for me and, our daughter, and we were with some friends that we had decided to take the trip with. And it was just this like rebirthing into the light. And I was trying to go into the positive of that, expect the unexpected with it. And at the same time, it was a challenging piece of the puzzle for me. So I was like, all right, I'm leaving room for it. I'm leaving room for it. It's gonna, but then it really was. And it was the level of fun that it was, how I was capable, even though I had to take breaks and all of that all of that kind of thing too, was really unexpected for all of us. And it really was a level of like, we were still kind of in that place of holding our breath, of like, when's the other shoe going to drop with all of this? Am I going to be able to do this? And that was the unexpected. And then going into the next year, in each of the different aspects that I had been, like, look at this one, because this is a preview of how it's going to be. There was the fun on each of those aspects. And also the idea that, well, this next transition of Pluto is going to be a different Pluto for you, these next 20 years, as far as that part is concerned. And so it just gave me a different perspective of when you're talking about expect the unexpected, all of the infinite possibilities that could mean. And I know, Taylor, as an astrologer, you probably already know that, but as those of us that don't know it all that well, it was another level of understanding and another learning around what those kinds of ideas can mean when it comes to astrology, even though this astrologer didn't paint it as this shadow, that I know sometimes can happen. She didn't paint it as that way. But I didn't realize that it could be that too, that could be the unexpected. You expect it to be this big, like, oh, what could it be? And it was like, oh no, it's fun, which was really needed because of our journey that we had kind of been on for the last few years for all of us.
That's super helpful to hear, because I know people can hear that, expect the unexpected, and then like brace, like tense everything up, like shoulders to the ears. And, yeah, I love that, like, real life story of how it turned out well for you. And yeah, we've been doing a lot too of this, the transits through us reflecting this process of reconditioning and reprogramming the subconscious, and like, what's laying below the surface of conscious awareness. A lot of this work happening, in journeys or in dream time, or, just really deep processes of, letting go of fears and reprogramming in those beliefs, like, expecting miracles, or what if something wonderful happens, or everything's always working out for me, and like these different ideas, instead of always just, those neuro pathways so focused on like the worst case scenario, or, any kind of uncertainty or unknown triggering that fear response. So yeah, absolutely. I think be open to positive results with this conjunction, and relax into the possibilities that are here, because it's really an energy of infinite possibilities.
Isn't Uranus also innovation? Like
Absolutely.
pretty big innovation. So, and you were talking about that new breakthroughs. So I think that word is also, in alignment with Uranus from the way you were describing it. That breakthrough energy can be that place of like, oh, at last we have these answers, or maybe at last we have the question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, freedom and liberation, and yeah, letting go into that innovation, solutions, possibilities, like a solutions kind of consciousness. Yeah.
Yeah, resourcefulness.
Mm-hmm. In Taurus, especially resourcefulness.
Um,
Practical, super practical.
We're laughing because we always talk about it has to come into the practical world. And, if we were in a place where we weren't living in the practical world, then we could, do all of this just philosophically or spiritually, but we live practical lives. So it has to apply. So describe a little bit more about that Taurus energy too, because I do think that's really an important understanding of that Taurus, really grounded earth energy.
It's fixed. So the modality is fixed and the element is earth. So it is the most stable sign of the zodiac. It's the one that's most resistant to change and breakthroughs, the most stubborn sign. So to have this conjunction in Taurus, it's like the deepest places we've been stuck and maybe like overly materialistic, even. There will be a breakthrough in the ways we've been the most stuck, the most stagnant, the most kind of in a rut, and opening to that next level of innovation and living life on earth in a way that is caught up with the science and the technology and also I'm thinking about all the different breakthroughs different scientists have made that like just haven't yet been offered to the mainstream, like solutions to all these big problems that we have the solution, but it hasn't yet been able to like go into like the flow of being accessible to everybody and like being the new norm for how we get around, these different problems. So I'm really seeing this as, stabilizing into this new future of humanity and being in a greater sense of harmony with the earth. And how this can look personally too is just whatever part of your life you've been feeling like you're in some kind of rut is to break out of that and allow yourself to be unstable for a little bit, to be a little unsteady. And if that happens, know that that's okay. And that's where, this is like allow yourself to be shaken up a little bit gently, and the things, everything can kind of like rearrange itself in a higher order, ultimately.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So then because you study so much of the galactic realms, can you talk about how that's all maybe coinciding or influencing?
Yeah. So with this particular conjunction, there's an alignment to Beta Centauri star, also known as Hadar, also known as Aegina, has like three different names within Centaurus constellation. And this is what I've been feeling in the Reiki journeys with it is like a divine feminine utopia kind of a world, planetary system, star system. And, having kind of that more Lemurian frequency, what you were describing, Colleen, with like the jello realms and the fluidity and the mycelium and like being really, really in that connectivity. So we're having that kind of influx of galactic support through this alignment. And then also the conjunction will be in alignment with Capulus star in Perseus constellation. Perseus is a warrior in the sky, the prince, and tuning into the higher frequencies of this star, it is that divine masculine energy. It feels like divine masculine utopian energy, like the other side of the spectrum. So everything structured and ordered and working and functional and linear and focused. And so it's almost like we're having this galactic exchange or balancing this opportunity on earth to find a kind of balance within both of those polarities and be supported by beings and star frequencies that have been through a similar experience and been on their own evolutionary path through polarity and found a sense of harmony ultimately. So, yeah, Centaurus constellation is the centaur. It's also linked to Chiron. So it's a priestly centaur in the sky. So we have this deeply spiritual healer, teacher, mentor vibration coming through the star alignments as well, that we are being certainly divinely guided by beings and star intelligence that contain the light codes. We need to receive the messages, the frequencies, the cosmic rays, the information, the insights that are going to help us integrate into this new paradigm of our functioning. So I'm super excited to connect more in with those frequencies. What I've been doing, I'm teaching a class on this transit, so I've been doing some of the work preparing for the class, and as I feel into those galactic energies, they feel very, very supportive and, very ultimately helping us find a greater sense of balance and unity within ourselves.
Well, that would be fabulous, to say the least. I really do believe humanity is ready for it individually and collectively, which is, in my own theory, that's what so much of the pushback is, where it's appearing at, well, it is actually very divisive right now. It's trying to get back to that place of balance. And I know you can't, you don't know for sure, but would you think that maybe we will have more physical visitation from the galactic realms? Or what do you think about that? Or how is that showing up for you?
I think most definitely, because actually after the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, one of the next major transits that's happening is planet Jupiter will be changing sign into Gemini. And Gemini is all about communication and contact and messages. Jupiter linked to expanding our minds, expanding our horizons, and really receiving that higher knowledge. And when Jupiter is entering the sign of Gemini, it will be in a conjunct alignment with the stars of the Pleiades. And the Pleiades, of course, the star cluster within Taurus constellation, is one of the most studied and revered of all the stars, upon the earth. Earth cultures have always looked to the Pleiades, and for good reason. They are very much galactic communicators and contact and ambassadors between the earth and the stars. So I really think we are going to see more people who are open to contact and receiving contact and different ideas about what contact can look like too, inviting in galactic contact that might not be as physical, but could be more on that telepathic level, and opening to doing that in a safe way. And what I'm finding is that Reiki offers that safe way. Because a lot of people hear, ET contact. Oh, that's another thing. Brace, tense everything
Oh,
more.
no.
That's scary. I'm going to be abducted, And with
And
Reiki, it's
experimented on.
what's that?
And experimented on.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot of healing around that needs to happen. Greater awareness and healing of the contact experiences that have already occurred, and then Reiki offers a very safe way for facilitating more of that contact and understanding that, what you're contacting that appears as other is actually you also. And so there's nothing to be afraid of as you're meeting yourself, more of your multidimensional self. You're meeting yourself in other forms, you know, reflecting different star qualities and energies and frequencies and different cultural experiences. So this is a very a very divine timing of receiving more of that direct galactic contact, I think, with Jupiter and Gemini, beginning at the end of May and then for the next year.
So, what about how that maybe also is revealed for people that are star seeds? That maybe that's even part of it, is that them, as you said, about getting to know self. That because in our work, as of course with Reiki, we meet, incarnate star seeds, and how there's more opening to that understanding now, which often can show up as neurodivergency, something along those lines, or just a kind of a different drive, inner drive. And so, would you say that may be more available for people to understand about themselves?
I think there's going to be more interest in all of this for sure. Following Jupiter Uranus conjunction, like wanting to connect to the galactic, wanting to connect to the multidimensional self, understanding like the reason I got into really astrology and then galactic astrology was wanting to understand pure human nature. And in finding out pure human nature, well, what is that? What is that? I mean, this question continues to lead me into space, into the stars, in understanding that question. So, yeah, understanding our multidimensional self and understanding the infinite manifestations of the star consciousness through, the human consciousness and human perception in this vehicle. And that, of course, different star consciousness reflecting their light through the human vehicle or the human prism is going to result in neurodiversity and different qualities and needing different foods or needing different practices, resonating with different kinds of medicine and herbs and, different lifestyle choices and, philosophies and ways of being. Really, I think we're going to continue to need to open more and more to that diversity moving forward, most certainly, and celebrate it because it's beautiful.
It's an amazing level of consciousness that is so often underdeveloped because of the misunderstandings about it, and including for people themselves. So fascinating. So tell us about your classes and what is involved in those. Because as soon as you said that, I heard people thinking, okay, how do I get there? What is it? What are your classes about these transits?
Yeah, so I've started teaching classes that combine the galactic astrology, the astrological knowledge and wisdom and teachings about the various transits and their interactions with the stars in depth, and combining that part with a Reiki journey that's specific to whatever the transit is and whatever the star alignments are, so we can begin to embody the planetary archetypes and embody more fully the star consciousness that's available, receive the healing messages, insights, empowerments that are being provided and orchestrated by the planets and the stars for our growth on Earth. And these classes, my intention with them has been so that they are accessible to people with no astrological knowledge, as well as people with astrological knowledge. There's something for everybody, and then the same with all levels of Reiki, from beginner Reiki, no Reiki experience, to people in my class will have advanced Reiki training and still come and receive a benefit. And it's been so wonderful that I've had that intention. I'm like, I have no idea how I'm going to do that. And the feedback has been that actually it's happening, that people who have no astrology knowledge are able to be in the space and receive more expansion of their astrological background and understand enough. And then those who are more advanced in their study are also receiving information, and then all levels of Reiki also receiving. So yeah, the classes have been super fun. And I'm teaching one on Jupiter Uranus on April 20th, and then another one for Jupiter and Gemini on May 25th. So it's a way to begin connecting and embodying more of your multidimensional self.
And so it sounds like that's like it guides them on a personal exploration of how those transits, not training them necessarily in astrology, but how these influences affect them on a personal level.
Well, they learn about the planetary archetypes. So, for example, in the Jupiter Uranus conjunction class, they'll learn about Jupiter in your chart, Uranus in the chart, the meaning of those two coming together, more about their cycle, more about the zodiac sign of Taurus. So, it's a different way of actually learning astrological basics based on what's really alive and happening in the cosmos and in the transits now. So it's been, how I've been following my guidance to teach astrology, essentially, in this way, where it's these energies are very potent and wanting to be learned and experienced. Yeah. So, and then I do in the classes provide people with a personalized document where they can find the conjunction in their chart and then like what house it's in. So for somebody who has no idea how to find, where something is happening in their chart, I will supply that for them. Yeah.
Well,
So it can
it's
be
so
applied
helpful.
personally.
Yeah, helpful because astrology is, as it's a deep dive into studying it to become proficient. For all the years I've worked with it, I know a lot, but only enough. Like I would never try to read it for someone else because I'm not versed well enough. It takes a long time to be studied. So I love that you brought it in at such a basic level that anyone can understand, and in addition, learn more about it and gain that knowledge. Like, what are these energies? And then also for the people that are going to click in, because that's the other thing. I wonder if that happened in your experience. Did the astrology just like instant? I know you had to learn it, but did you have an instant click in with it, like almost like an innate memory of it? You've done it before.
Yeah. Yeah, it was super easy for me to pick up, and I'd already had all my Reiki attunement. So I think when you learn anything new and you have like the Reiki mental emotional symbol and you have NOSA, you have like these different energy, like things are easier to learn. And that was certainly the case for me. I also have strong Gemini placements, and I see this a lot for people who want to learn astrology. Typically have often will have strong Gemini placements, and being good at learning and studying and collecting information and just kind of having this whole library of information within. So Reiki really helped wake up this whole astrology thing for me, and I continue my studies moving forward because there's so much to learn, and it's so interesting.
How did you get interested in the galactic astrology? How did that come about? Because that's
That
pretty new, right?
Yeah, that was Reiki too. Reiki was guiding me to study the asteroids and be journeying with the asteroids and to the asteroids that orbit in between Mars and Jupiter. And then there are others that are further out. And then I was actually guided to then look beyond the asteroids. It's been Reiki nudging me all along. And so I was really looking at the black holes. And then I found my astrology teacher, Julia Balaz, and she teaches more about the fixed stars and the galactic astrology and how our star alignments can show us more about our multidimensional self and past lives, future lives, parallel lives. And she brought through like a really amazing paradigm, and I was just guided to her as a teacher because she's doing this leading edge work. And then I've been guided also to take another class, a certification on fixed stars, working with them. You'll love this calling because you just went there, the ancient Egyptian way. So looking at heliacal stars and Purans, there's a whole other way you can look at the star alignments. So I just keep looking to the stars. And maybe it's the Leo in me, being ruled by the sun. It's like the sun is wonderful, but so are all the other stars. And yeah, I mean it's the light. It's the light bringer. Reiki's just keeps guiding me to explore all these great lights we have within our cosmos and what that means for us and our connection to it all. Yeah.
So then talk about your readings and what you do for those, if and how people, what people need to do to schedule a reading with you.
All my readings and my classes, and then also where you can sign up for the Distant Reiki Share, that's all on my website, taylornorrisreiki.com. I have a free Distant Reiki Share every new moon. So the next one being for this Aries solar eclipse, April 8th. And the readings are all on my website as well. I have a variety of astrology readings, from just like a regular astrological consultation looking at the planets and your cycles and your transits and your natal chart. And then I have the looking at your star alignments and your astrology chart the ancient Egyptian way. So that's a whole totally different way. And that has been so much fun to learn and do those readings, because those are really like the stars very embodied, very like grounded in our lives, and like more accessible. It feels even more physicalized how the Egyptians work with the stars, and it's probably much older than the Egyptians. We just know and can date that this method dates back to them. Then there's the galactic astrology readings, which feels like the higher octave of the stars, and it feels more of that very multidimensional self and like reaching out to those parts of ourselves. And I combine the galactic astrology soul readings with Reiki. And so I have all different combinations of what I do, like just Reiki, just astrology, and then different offerings that kind of combine the galactic received intuitively in a Reiki session, like receiving the galactic information just through a Reiki journey. And then I have astrology readings that combine the astrology with receiving the galactic information through a Reiki journey. Because that's been what's so cool too, is in the Reiki journey, having this backlog of all the star information, the astrology, often the information I'll receive in a Reiki journey is like in that kind of language and in that kind of framework. So that's kind of interesting too, of all the different ways to read and learn.
And then you have, I want to kind of put into quotation marks because people may really want to specifically join you on April 8th. You have that, your distance. Talk about that, your distance Reiki share.
Distant Reiki Share every single new moon, including the solar eclipse, April 8th. And in that, I usually will talk about astrology for the first part of it. and about what's coming up next. And then there will be a channeled Reiki journey that's specific to the solar eclipse and like the galactic energies involved in the solar eclipse. And then there's a Reiki share at the end where we all come together and share Reiki and empower our intentions moving forward. So in the journey, typically, I will guide some, optional automatic writing where you can set some intentions for the moon cycle ahead, or in the case of this solar eclipse, like for the next 6 months, like what kinds of seeds of intentions you may be planting. So there's some guided journaling typically available within those journeys. And yeah, Reiki Sharon, it's been so fun. It's a growing circle. Like every time, the soul family just grows wider, and many from the Reiki lifestyle community will come. And I love it so much. It makes me so happy. So I hope that those who aren't out viewing the eclipse will come to the Reiki Share if you want to be there.
Well, I think that they could be at the Reiki share because even the East Coast, I think the eclipse is after your Reiki share. So I think it's like 3 in the afternoon, something.
Yeah, well, it's at 8 a.m. my time, and I know the eclipse will be happening during the share.
Oh, it'd be during that. Oh,
Yeah, some like very different time zones from the East Coast.
okay.
Yeah.
So 8
Yeah, 'cause you'll
a.m.
be
your
six.
time.
Yeah, 6.
Hmm.
It's 6 hours ahead, so it'd be like
Hmm.
3 p.m. there, or 2 p.m.
Hmm.
Yeah,
That's right. We're 6 hours ahead, not 5.
yeah. Wow. Well, it has flown by. It's been
I
like an
know.
hour and a half. Um, so we'll just say Taylor's website again is taylornorrisreiki.com. And again, definitely join her on Instagram, which is Taylor Norris Reiki, and then YouTube. Um, I don't know if you have a dedicated domain, so just search her on YouTube or go to her Instagram, and it's all linked there. And you can sign up for all of the things that she's doing and the new moon circles and then her classes, and get a reading or a session from her on her website. So yeah, Taylor, thank you so much. We always love having you, and we see you all the time, so we always love talking to Taylor.
Yeah, thank you so much. This has been so fun.
Yeah, you just add a beautiful perspective to it all, and combining the two also is, it's helpful on a personal level, but then it's also helpful for people to see, the possibilities of what can be done with these modalities, right? That how you can combine these things, and whether it's astrology, which it's super helpful to see how you can combine them, but also other modalities and see how they just integrate together and work beautifully together is also inspiring. So yeah, we just always love having you as a guest, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And one more thing, you also do personal Reiki sessions too, right? And they're online.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I want to make sure that we say that for any of you out there listening, looking for Reiki session also.
Yeah, trained by you two. So I do the journeys and the channeling and all the fun stuff.
I love it. Love it so much.
Well, and we can be found at ReikiLifestyle.com. We do have classes in April, so take a look at our calendar and our schedule of classes, Reiki classes and animal Reiki classes. And happy eclipse, everybody, and also Jupiter Uranus conjunction and all of the other things that Taylor talked about that are coming up. Lots of love, and definitely join her for some support, us for some support, and just bring in Reiki. All right. Bye now. Thank you.
Bye.
Aloha. Thank you.
You.